Uh, what y'all looking at is Captain Kirk and Dr. Spock being interviewed by Brother Rich.
Well, hey, Rod, I'm curious. How do you come up with these conclusions? Like we always talk about tapping into these ESP abilities. For you to say that somebody was your big brother in a former life, like how does that information come to you? I know a lot of people are very curious as to the
Okay,
process.
so the first time I seen Billy Carson was some years ago, and as soon as I seen him, it was like, you know how you remember going to get ice cream when you was 5, 6 years old,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? It come back like that, like a old memory, and you'll be like, how? What is? At first, when I was younger and I used to have those experiences, I didn't know what they was.
Right.
I didn't know those was past life memories. But when I seen him and then he started talking, and I was saying to myself, that's my big brother. What the fuck? He ain't my big brother this time.
And just like that, we back.
Just like that.
Just like that, we back. Look, this ain't our first rodeo, man.
No.
When you talk about the meat suit, right? You talking about this Earth Rover.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Talk about that concept. I heard Rod. Sometimes I call Rod and I just ask Rod questions, and it don't even be about the show. It just pertains to things I need to tap into personally. And Rod told me the concept, and I was like, "Yeah, that's interesting. I like that concept resonates with me." Let me just share the screen real quick before as we begin the show. And I'm looking at the Mars rover, and the Mars rover is a remote controlled vehicle designed to travel the surface of Mars. So if Rod Hayes is talking about the Earth Rover body, that might also be remote control. The question is, who is remote controlled by, and what is the design, and what is the Earth Rover supposed to do compared to the Mars rover? And I'm sure they're extremely similar. So we could start out with this concept of the Earth Rover, Rod and Billy, and it being remote control. I'm assuming it's remote control by a higher self, but could you elaborate a little on that? And since Rod told me about the concept, you can start, my brother.
So when I say Earth Rover,
yeah,
right, we got these meat suits that's made up of nanotech. We call the nanotech of the body the DNA structure. The DNA is made up of amino acids in a crystalline form. In computer technology, we use crystals to store data and to transfer information. Right? The emotional body of the human is just a navigation system. Right? So imagine you going somewhere, your dash light come on to change oil, and you get stuck on that idea that you need to change your oil and drive off a cliff because you caught up in the light coming on for the oil. This is what we do with our emotions when we don't have any emotional stability.
Shit, right? Okay.
So the first thing that you're supposed to ask yourself when you feel an emotion is it in context?
What you mean?
Right.
Hold up.
So sometimes you'll be angry at somebody, but anger is the wrong emotion. It's out of context. Right. So once you find out it's in context, then you know the universe is triggering you to make a move to do something.
Okay.
Now you have to determine what kind of emotion it is. Because like, if the universe telling you to go to war, you're going to feel anger, rage, and the desire to act on it. If the universe is telling you to find peace, you're going to look for somewhere to harmonize and ground out with nature.
Right.
Right. But it's going to tell you through a system of communication that we call emotional influence. No matter what the fuck we might think about our body, we ain't here. We some the fuck where else. Now, where we at? I got my suspicions.
Yeah.
Because when I do the analysis of the Dark Knight satellite trajectory and the moon trajectory, it tell me there's a projector playing somewhere in a holographic format, right? And then when I study epigenetics, it tell me that wherever the fuck we at, we being projected into the body, the meat suit, the Earth Rover, right? So if we hold light beings and we need to travel in the 3D world, we'll be walking through walls if we don't have a body. So we need a rover, just like you need that rover to go get data on Mars. We need a rover on Earth to collect data, right? And they all specialize in something different. The data collecting rovers, we call them scientists. The spirit collecting rovers that collect spiritual data, we call them priests, gurus, sorcerers, etc. But everything that we be doing is to maintenance and care for the rover, right? Scientists already say that the body is the only machine that is literally designed to never fail, yet why does it fail? It's the same reason your engine is designed to go 100,000 miles, but don't put the oil in there when you're supposed to. Or put antifreeze in your oil. It's not going to work right. This is our cultural influence of diet and toxic diet specifically. Right? They had a Senate Judiciary Committee back in the 30s, like 31, 32. And they declared that there was no nutritional value in the common farmland that they use, because they don't use all of the farmland.
Right.
And that they said back then that in the future, if they don't do something to remedy the lack of nutrition in the soil, that the farmland would be producing food that has no nutritional value. Right? So how is the Earth Rover going to function in its optimum capacity? Right? So when you read about in Egypt, the couscous and the ormus monoatomic substance, right? The monoatomic substance have a side effect of causing you to run at the most energy efficient potentiality possible for the body. Right? Your whole light body at that point can disassemble the molecular structure of the physical body in Chicago, and your mind can project it to Bangladesh, and you can reassemble those molecules.
Shit.
But you can't do that when they keep in your body toxic.
Right. You talking about the monatomic gold, right?
Well, it's a combination of several monoatomic trace metals they call platinum group metals.
Okay.
Right. So these platinum group metals turns the body into a superconducting machine. Once it's conducting as a superconductor, it's not losing energy, what we call entropy. It's not experiencing entropy. At that point, every system in the body is running at peak performance. I be telling people all the time, people be telling me I need to be a vegan. We used to didn't even eat food. What are you talking about? We used to eat monoatomic substance with a cup of water, and now we eat a whole meal. What happened? Right? But it's the Earth Rover. It's the maintenance of the machine. Projecting epigenetics tell you how you receive the data, but it doesn't tell you how you tune into your station. Your station is when all of your cells are operating, it produces its own receiver bandwidth like a radio. And then wherever you at, projecting into the physical form, you operating this motherfucker from there.
Right.
The problem is once you take on the physical form, you experience a type of memory loss.
Amnesia, huh? That amnesia.
Yes. And now you got to remember, that's why you got to be born as a baby rover first. The baby rover's only job is to acquire data to function within the society around it. That's it. For the first 8 years, that's all you're doing. 7 years, all you're doing is collecting data.
It's in theta mode. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And there go your 8 for Tahuti, by the way. When I backed up to the 7. I'm talking brother Carson. he know Tahuti number used to be 8 because
That's right.
Tootie number 8.
Oh yeah, still
that was
number
his
8.
Yeah,
that's his favorite number, but that's
I like
because his consort is a representation of the number 8.
that's fire. I always learn about number 8 from King Simon because I'm a number 8. I was born on the 17th, so that's fire. That's fire. I would love. I'm gonna talk to you on the side, Rod, to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's a Q flip, by the way. For all you QAnons watching.
But yeah, Billy, you want to add on that to that? This concept of this remote-controlled Earth Rover. Rod says shit, man. I mean, Rod drops.
It's deep. It's deep what brother Rod was talking about because he really tapped right in. I mean, if you analyze and look at this body, which I like to call the meat suit as well, right? This body, which has the nanotech, just as he said, we're talking about now understanding the DNA, which we know now for a fact scientifically can send and receive Wi-Fi signals. In other words, our body can receive data. It can receive bits of data, zeros and actual zeros and ones. And so what's interesting is scientists were able to transmit zeros and ones back to DNA by converting the zeros and ones into A's, T's, C's, and G's, and then encoding and saving data in a medium, a storage medium on DNA in a volume. And then they were able to take that DNA, access that data, and put it up on a computer screen. So that means they were able to also convert the A's, C's, T's, and G's back into zeros and ones and then play it back. So DNA is not only can download data, but can also upload data. It can also operate as a server. Now, what's interesting about this is you look at the rover that you have here in this image, right? This rover is a rover that's receiving a radio signal, a radio frequency.
Yes.
A frequency. Just like the universal consciousness is a frequency.
Yes, sir.
It's being broadcast into this density, this third dimension. It's actually transcending down multiple dimensions until it gets down to the third, just like gravity and everything else. And so what's happening is our bodies are just like that rover, that Mars rover. We're receiving a specific frequency that allows that light. See, the light that's in the frequency that's animating that rover and making it move around and do what it has to do is a radio frequency, which is actually what? It's a wave of light. We know that radio waves are light waves. Human beings can't see them because human beings can only see less than 1% of the light spectrum. But if you had the capability to see radio waves, you would see that it's light. Now, the same thing is happening to the human being avatar body. Our body has a few things inside of here that allows it to encapsulate temporally this light frequency. We have the billions of magnetite crystals in our brain.
Right.
Then we also have the neural correlates of consciousness, which are 3 giant neurons that wrap around the inside of the skull that look like a crown of thorns under a scan.
Well, like
Sounds
Christ?
familiar?
Like
Crown
Christ?
of thorns. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, I'm loving this show. I am loving this show. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. Y'all got
So
me
all
hyped.
of us are walking around with a crown of thorns. Every single human being on this planet is walking around with a crown of thorns right now.
Yo.
Okay. And then you have also your neocortex, Neo from the Matrix,
right,
responsible for higher reasoning and understanding. So between the neocortex, the magnetite crystals, and the neural correlates of consciousness, those 3 things, all right, the Trinity, they actually work together to encapsulate that frequency, that light frequency that's inhabiting your avatar body. Without that light wave frequency being encapsulated and held into the body will not be animated. It'll be just like that movie Avatar, a lifeless body that can't do anything until the light enters it, the light of conscious life and divine energy, that divine spark. And so just like this rover up here, it can't move. It can't do nothing until it receives the light. The light frequency being broadcast into it is what gives it life. And then the actual nano parts inside of it allow it to take on commands and act on those commands to achieve specific missions. The same thing happens with the human body. There's no difference between us and that rover up there. We're receiving a wireless frequency. We're downloading it, encapsulating it in this avatar body, and then we're acting on that light. That light is animating us, and we're acting on what the light wants it to do.
Shit.
Period.
You know, you mentioned the Trinity. You know, Neo fell in love with Trinity in the Matrix.
That's right.
that can't be a coincidence now.
Yeah. Oh no, it ain't. Listen, the Matrix itself, that term, that name for that movie comes out of the Bible. The Bible says it in 5 locations, and the Bible says the Matrix is a womb. And in order to get to a higher level of thought, you must be born through that womb, which they call the Matrix.
Let me ask y'all this now. Oh, you know, before because we're about to get started with the questions. We going for about an hour and a half tonight. Billy got something to do. I got something to do. Rod got something to do. So we're gonna go for about it. It's gonna be a powerful show, but we're not going for 5 hours. I know y'all want us to be on here to 2 in the morning. But listen,
I wanted to interject one thing for you, Brother Rich.
Go ahead, Rod.
Brother Carson mentioned that word, the Matrix.
Yes, sir.
What's on the inside of mitochondrial, Brother Carson?
Inside of the mitochondria? Inside the mitochondria is the Matrix.
Okay. We go from there. I just wanted to make sure we didn't leave Big Mama out of the equation.
I had to say that. You know, Rod, I knew that was coming. I knew Rod had to say that. I'm loving this show so far. Oh, my God. Yo,
look.
Before
Sophia Stewart wrote The Matrix, and Sophia, that means Ain't Soph, that's divine wisdom, and Stewart is the guardian over something. Just so y'all know her name.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's that type of night, huh? You going in, huh, Rod? Okay. Listen, a quick announcement, y'all, before because we're about to get heavy in these questions. Y'all know it's gonna get real hot up in here. I hope y'all got a fan, an air conditioner, because your body's about to your rover's about to heat up from what's about to go down. But listen, y'all know we got Blueprint for God Power Part 2 coming up. I talked to Rod. Listen, about a couple of months ago, I was doing a show with Rod Hayes, and Rod Hayes started rhyming. And I'm like, oh shit, I ain't know Rod Hayes rhyme. I was like, that's what's up. I gotta holler at him, but I didn't want to interrupt the show about the rhyming. So now, you know, as part of the bonus package for the Blueprint for God Power, we got the album. We doing a like a meditation, affirmation album. I'm gonna have Rod Hayes commit to a track on the album. He agreed. This brother, he spit some. Listen, man, what I heard during that show, I need to hear more of that, and I look forward to collaborate more with Rod. But he's officially a part of the Blueprint for God Power 2. One of the tracks, I got 3 tracks. Billy got 3 tracks, and Dr. B got 3 tracks. One of my tracks is going to be featuring Rod Hayes. It's going to be fire. Oh, it's going to be fire, y'all. So, y'all, everybody who signs up, the link is pinned at the top of the chat. I put it in the yeah, I know. Everybody like, yo, it's epic. Yeah, Rod Hayes is going to be on one of my meditation tracks. You know, music is the wave. Music is the future of medicine, healing, everything. So, I love it with my conscious brothers and sisters when I hear y'all rhyme, and I want to connect with y'all. So this is my first collaboration with Rod, and I look forward to many more. But Rod will officially be on the Blueprint for God Power Part 2 with the album, the meditation album, and I'm so excited, y'all. He gonna give me. I'm just leave it at that. But let's get to the question. Yo, Billy, ain't that that's son, huh, Billy?
Man, listen, that's sick, boy. I can't wait to hear it myself now, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I can't either. I don't even.
No, I'm gonna produce the shit out of it. Just trust me, Rod. I got this with that. Oh man, since you talked about Neo, let's get going with these questions. Oh man. Billy Carson, you mentioned Neo. Now we're remote control. Rod Hayes said we ain't even in this motherfucker. We just a holographic projection. My question is, in the movie The Matrix, I've heard Bruce Lipton said, that ain't no movie. That's a documentary. That ain't no movie. That ain't entertainment. So in the movie, Neo was in Zion, projecting himself in the Matrix, head laid back like this, thing on his head, and they was coming to Zion to attack him, to kill him in the Matrix. Now, when we get attacked down here, a lot of the times we think that somebody down here is attacking us. Now, we have a higher self projecting ourselves down here. Are we beefing in another realm? Is our higher self getting attacked in another realm when we feel pain and agony and despair down here doesn't have nothing to do with this realm, but a higher self in another realm is getting attacked by some MFer. Is that what's going on if the Matrix is a documentary, Billy and Rod?
Man, well, I believe that our higher self is a higher dimension, right, and above even the highest dimension, on the outside of this entire multiverse, is maybe base reality, the source of the creation of possibly even the very first of the many, many universe that actually exist. And, so when we're being attacked down here, understanding that our body is in the matrix, this physical body, this corporeal body that we know in the third density exists in this matrix, in my opinion, it's quite possible that the attack itself is also an illusion. Not meaning that you don't feel physical pain, not meaning that you don't feel mental illness or mental strife or mental pain, or go through things in this life, because we do. But this universe, in my opinion, is possibly a testing ground. It's a testing ground for the spirit, for the soul, and also a proving ground and a learning place for the consciousness. You see, I think that the mass consciousness that exists throughout the entire multiverse is experiencing itself subjectively through individual atoms, not just through people, but through each individual atom that exists. So it wants to know what it's like to be Billy Carson, but it also wants to know what is it like to be a blade of grass? What is it like to be an atom inside this cell phone device that I'm holding up? What is it like to be an atom inside this microwave, inside this microphone? Wherever atoms exist. When human beings don't build anything, we don't create anything. We just know how to stack atoms in a particular format like Legos that allows us to get some type of use out of them. But we don't create the atom. So saying something is man-made is actually a wrong statement. When we say that when we have babies, right? What's happening is this nanotechnology goes in and begins to stack atoms in a format that allows a quote unquote human being to come out. Right. And again, the human being itself is nothing more than a group of stacked atoms. If I was to take an electron microscope and look at an atom on a slide, I'm nothing more than a bunch of atoms observing itself. Now take that to as above, so below. The universe itself as a whole is doing the same exact thing. It's observing itself through us, right? We are the sensory perception of the universe itself as a whole, and we are gathering data and gathering information, just like our mind is gathering data and gathering information on a consistent basis. Sometimes these attacks come to see what is the result going to be of this? Is this version of me going to react properly or inappropriately? Is this version of me going to be able to resolve the situation or find solutions? Is this version of me going to suffer from PTSD, or is it going to suffer from PTG, post-traumatic growth? What's going to happen here, and how many times do I have to experience this before this matrix itself solves the problem? Right. And the problem is, how do we turn darkness, alchemically convert darkness into light? So I think this is all part of a mass experiment, and we're living inside of this actual experiment. And I don't think we're close to base reality, not even close. We are just in one of probably Google's of universes and multiverses that exist throughout this sea of infinite life.
Rod, you want to add on to that, my brother? No, you're on mute. Rod, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
I got you. So, I'm listening to Brother Carson. I just love listening to him. But the whatever is going on, we know this. We know that the particulates of the atom, this nanotest smaller than cells, is made up of light.
Right.
We know that all of the religions of the world say that creation started with light. Right? The Big Bang, I think that's when the hologram came on.
Okay.
Right? And the reason why I say that is because what most of us don't see when you hit the light switch is you get a spark from the connection making.
Okay.
Right. So we tracing creation back to the Big Bang. Right? But wherever the Big Bang came from, something was already there. You can't bang nothing that ain't there.
Exactly.
So this is what we call dark matter, the primordial noon, or the sacred waters of creation in which all things come.
Yes.
Right? So you hear people talk love and light, and I have to constantly remind them, yeah, but you got to remember both the love and the light came forth and proceed from triple darkness. Right? Because the love works in the darkness to create the avatar in the womb. Right? Now, when you copulate, when Brother Billy mentioned when you're having a baby, these two avatars come together. When the RNA split and recombine in the fetal cells, that's data transfer. That's the mother side of the family's information becoming acclimated to the father side of the information to determine what kind of rover do we need to meet the qualifications from both sides of these equation. Right? So when we looking at it, we look at it from the physical self as the primary self, and all of our senses is to support the physical self. That's delusional and childish thinking when it comes to science, right? Because epigenetics tell you that wherever we at, we ain't in this body because the cells got them little antennas on the outside of them called membranes that receive the information to communicate to the DNA helix, and the DNA helix gonna siphon whatever it needs from the mitochondrial energy source, which is a battery.
Right.
Every single cell got its own battery. What do you need a battery for? Right? We're not looking at it. It's got to be mechanical, a machine, to require a battery to operate.
Yes.
Right? So wherever we at, we projecting here. My suspicion is the Dark Knight satellite in the moon, because the moon ain't always been there. Right, and that motherfucker take off. That motherfucker something ain't right with that motherfucker. It's a whole ship. That motherfucker will take off, and you will look up and be like, damn, what happened to the moon? I was just looking at a whole full moon and it's just gone. Right? But whatever confronted must not be serious enough. But there's some shit going on up there. I can't see it with the naked eye, but my third eye keeps seeing shit all over the sky. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why we can't see it with the naked eye? So there's something going on. So it's like two things happening, layered on top of each other. And I believe that's dimensional layers. What we can't see in the 3D realm because it hasn't materialized three-dimensionally yet.
You know, we hear so much about this third eye, which is really our first eye. Is there such thing, like we have a picture of the eye, and then they show the part of the brain that's the third eye, and it looks like the eye within the brain, and it's the third eye. Now, there's also pictures, you know, and Billy talks about fractals a lot. There's also pictures of the ear, and then they have a picture of a baby being born, and the fetus is curled up like how the ear is curled up. So my question to you would be, if there's a third eye, is there also a third ear? I know Plato talked about something about the music of the spheres. Is there something that's called the third ear that allows us to hear the vibration and frequencies that exist way beyond our senses, like our eyes allow us to see way beyond our senses?
We don't call it the third ear, though. We don't identify the organ or the sensory perception tool we using. We only identify that we hear it by a term that they call clairaudient. Okay. So you hearing all that shit you saying, the song of the spheres, and you get, when you was talking about earlier about making the music, and the music is light converted into sound.
Okay.
You can't have a radio wave that's made up of light if the sound is not light as well. Right, because it has to be a compatible medium of exchange in order to transfer from one point to the other.
This is God power. This is God power today, yo.
Right.
God power.
So when you on a boat, you go from waterway to waterway because the boat is conducive to traveling water.
Yeah.
The boat in this case is the sound, and the sound has to be compatible with traveling on the water. which is a radio wave.
Okay.
Just like a boat got to be compatible with riding the river or the ocean.
Right.
Right? Because it needs certain parameters have to be met.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that we be seeing, and when I be talking about, I be seeing patterns. A lot of people don't know what I'm talking about, but it's conceptual physics being played out as what we call life. So conceptual physics is you don't see the numbers, you just see the description that the numbers represented. Right? So when you walk into the store, it's a conceptual physics formula because you take into account all of the variables between the house and the store. Right? And then if everything go according to the proper math, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to get what I'm going to get, and I'm come back home. But if somebody throw a curveball in there, right, a rogue element, that throws the whole equation off. Now you've been going to the store that's a block away for 2 hours.
Right. Okay.
Right. That's physics.
Right.
It's the laws of hermetics, action, reaction, the polar opposites, the law of vibration. All those things are active at the same time, telling you the physics formula for life.
Yeah.
Some of us figuring out something. Go ahead, Billy.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rod. I want to add something too, because we're talking about really when you're talking about the light again, because I see a couple people were in the chat saying, we ain't made of light. You got to listen to what the brother's saying, because what we're talking about is something in quantum physics called wave-particle duality. This is real science, guys. Wave-particle duality. And in wave-particle duality, we understand now through the study of quantum physics and quantum mechanics that everything in the third dimension, that includes you and me, exists as a wave of potentials before it collapses into something that we consider to be solid matter. And what is that wave comprised of? It's a frequency, which is a light wave frequency. We know for a fact now, because we actually took an actual photo of a wave as it was collapsing into a bit of matter. So there's an image on physics.org that came out about 3.5 years ago. It shows a wave right as it's about to collapse into solidity, and they called it in the in-between state. And what's interesting about this, due to the double slit experiment in quantum physics, we know that waves are basically all that exists until a conscious observer interacts with that wave and collapses it into something solid. In other words, through the double slit experiment, they saw that by shooting individual electrons or even individual photons through microscopic slits in a microscopic box, the back end pattern was waves until they put a little camera inside to see what was happening. Then the electrons and the photons said, you know what? They're looking at us. Now we're going to become solid matter. And so this is really deep, because what this really means is when you are not at your house, this is just one example. When you are not at your house and you can't see it, your house exists as a wave of potentials. It doesn't exist as a house, it exists as light. When you're away from your kids, they exist as waves of potential. Waves of what? Waves of light. Now, anyone that interacts with those light waves, those waves are a specific frequency. So they always collapse into the same exact thing. Your house is always going to collapse into the same thing. Your child is always going to collapse into the same thing. Anything you're not looking at that you know of that exists collapses back depending on who is observing it. Now, what's interesting is, so when you're not home, your house exists as a wave of light. When you bend the corner and you see it, it collapses into a solid structure again. This is not woo-woo. This is not off the dome. This is real science taught in universities around the world. People pay $150,000 to $200,000 a semester to learn what I just told you.
Right.
This is real stuff. So human beings are light beings. We are beings of light, literally, not figuratively.
All right. So based on that, Billy, I got a question for you and Rod. Good question. Let's say, like they say, this realm is an optical illusion. It's not real. what they said, the Maya, like ancient cultures called it the Maya. There's different terms for it, but it's an optical illusion based on our eyes. Now, the eyes is the only part of the brain we can see, Billy. It's an extension of the brain, only part of the brain that we can see. My question, Billy, is you have children, Rod has children. Most of the time when people have children, they love their children dearly. Now, if the eyes are part of the brain, and the brain is the product of the matrix, once we don't have the rover or the meat suit, we don't have the optical illusion no more. Hence, shouldn't our son, shouldn't our daughter disappear? Because we don't have the mechanics, the instrument that creates that optical illusion. So how do I honor something? How do I give respect? How do I love something that didn't exist in the first place, that I don't even have the mechanics to perceive because I don't have the instruments, meaning the human body anymore once I leave this realm?
Look, it's more than one sense converging on this collapsing of the wave into the particle.
Yes.
Right? If, let's say, like Stevie Wonder, he still perform in front of the same amount of people that we see, whether he see them or not.
Mm-hmm.
So if Stevie Wonder going to a concert and the concert sold 40,000 tickets and there's 40,000 people in the arena, when Stevie Wonder say how many people out there, they say 40,000, he go out there, he gonna hear 40,000 people, but he ain't gonna see them. We gonna know what they look like with the naked eye, but he won't know what they look like, and that's he's using his mind's eye.
Once I don't have the avatar, I can't see or hear. I can't. None of that. Everything's gone.
Oh, outside of the avatar.
Once we die.
Right. Well, once you outside of the avatar, you see from another perspective. Right. You gotta remember, all of us are subsets of mind. We'll go back to hermetics. All is mind. The universe is mind. 3D is a three-dimensional fixed position mind matrix reality. Meaning that the only reason why any of this is even in existence is because enough people that was powerful enough to agree on the simulation confirmed it. They all agreed to look at the same thing at the same time and get the same perception. And this is what runs the reality. It's a big egregore. What they call a universal mind. It's a big ass egregore, a thought form, right? So the universal mind knows it. It want to know everybody's business. So it's in everybody.
Everywhere. Nonstop. 24/7. It's omnipotent. Yeah. You see, also, think about this, Rich.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer this question also from two perspectives. One perspective is if the avatar body wasn't dead, because some people may be like, well, if you're blind, then how can it collapse? Well, we have several ways of perceiving information from our surroundings. One is we know of our five senses. That's one. All five senses, right? Touch. So let's say if I'm blind and I touch something, what's happening? The electromagnetic frequencies of the electrons orbiting the atoms in my hand are repelling the frequencies in this phone stand, for example. And so I can touch this phone stand, I can close my eyes and I can touch this phone stand. This phone stand will be there because of the two frequencies that are repelling. It's repulsion that's creating the ability for me to not only touch it and feel it, but even to pick it up and put it back down. It's repulsion. You never actually touch anything. The only thing that you do is you repel. Electromagnetic frequencies of the atoms orbiting, of the electrons orbiting those atoms create this repulsion. So you think you're touching something, but you never truly touch anything. It's nothing but force fields bumping into force fields.
Okay? Billy, stop that shit. Stop that shit. I like that one. I like that one. You said, hold up, because I need to retain this. And I get this feeling when I talk to Rod on the phone. You said it's really force fields bumping into force fields, not matter, touching matter?
No, matter's not touching matter. Atoms are 99.999% empty space. So there's nothing really here. We have the illusion of solidity. This microphone stand is nothing but light waves slowed down to a specific frequency, give me the illusion of solidity. And the atoms here all have electrons orbiting it. They're orbiting at an extremely high rate of speed, like a solar system, but multiple times faster. And so the same thing is happening to the electrons orbiting the atoms in my fingertips. So when I go to touch this, what's happening is there's a repulsion going on between electromagnetic fields, you see? And so that's what's creating an ability for me to actually hit this and stop my hand from going through it. Now, if I can phase shift the atomic frequency of the atoms in my hand to the same frequency of the atoms in this phone stand, my hand would pass through it like it didn't exist. If I can match the frequency of the atoms in a solid wall with my body, I can walk through it like it doesn't exist. And so we know that there's 8 billion people on Earth. If I took all the empty space away from all the atoms in 8 billion people, I can fit everyone into one sugar cube. One sugar cube can hold the entire planet's population.
Billy. That sounds crazy, Billy. That sounds real crazy. To the average mind, that sounds crazy. But it's
well, reverse engineer what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right. So we know when you break the body down, you get cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we break the cells down, we get amino acids. We break amino acids down, we get vitamins.
Right.
When you break vitamins down, you get atoms. When you break atoms down, you get quarks. When you open up a quark, you got something called a string in string theory. That's actually a piece of light that's tied up in a knot.
Shit.
Right? When it's tied up tight enough, it creates another particle called a Higgs boson or a God particle that creates the illusion of density, but it's still just a particle of light.
Mm-hmm.
So if you reverse engineer what he's saying, the science is all wise, right, and exact. It doesn't buckle.
It's all there.
Right?
Do y'all realize Billy just broke something down and Rod Hayes just reverse engineered? Do y'all see? This is a Tuesday night. This is a regular Tuesday night. I don't think no. We take for granted what we do and who we are. This is a regular Do y'all realize what the hell is going on tonight in this broadcast? Nah. Billy and Rod Hayes, I could tell y'all knew each other the past life, man.
We're on the same frequency.
I could tell, man. Rod Hayes is the street version. Billy's the proper version. You know what I mean? This is like this is amazing. This is amazing. Yeah. Listen, so let me ask you this. So we're talking about this avatar. We're talking about this rover. Billy talked about the idea of it being us having a Wi-Fi, a multi-dimensional Wi-Fi signal, and us downloading and uploading information. What I want to ask you about. Well, let me say this before I ask this question. I was watching something on Instagram one day. It's a rapper. I forget the brother name. It was either a black rapper or a black entertainer, but he was saying he was on a plane. And a lady told him, might have been a white lady, I'm not sure. And I'm not trying to be racist, but it might have been a white lady, based on how he was talking when she told him what she told him. But she told him he was about to go to sleep. He was tired. He was exhausted. And she told him, don't go to, whatever you do, don't go to sleep on a plane. If you don't go to sleep on a plane, you will tap into one of your greatest levels of creativity. When you're on a plane, use that opportunity in the plane to tap into creativity and do something, but do not sleep. So he was tired of shit. He said, man, this lady crazy. I'm going to sleep. But he said he decided not to sleep. He didn't sleep, and he started writing a book. I'm trying to think. It might have been Steve Harvey. I'm not sure. I don't want to misquote it, but it might have been him. But he decided to start writing his book. And he said he just kept writing. Now, my question, based on that story, because I like to use modern stories with ancient history. Based on that story, he's in the sky. Now, the ancient word for sky in Sanskrit is Akasha. We talk about the Akashic fields. So he's up in the sky. He's up in the Akasha. He's up in he's in this information field, and we also hear about how we used to be giants. So let's say we was giants, we had more access to this Akasha. So talk to me about why somebody might get more information in the sky or in the Akasha, and does that tie into us being giants and living in the Akasha and us having more access, us being way more intelligent than what we are now?
Well, it's interesting. The Sanskrit word for sky is Akasha, and we know that the Akashic records is something talked about in a lot of ancient texts. It's this mystical realm where all information exists. Every thought exists. Yeah. And it sounds like woo-woo and it sounds like weird magic science until you start getting into real physics. This Akasha is also in other religious texts. It's known as the Book of Life. But the term the Book of Life doesn't originate from Christianity or Islam. It originates in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth 38,000 years ago. And the Book of Life and the Akashic Records are the same exact thing, one and the same. And we know this now through, let's go back into the science, because we got to bring the receipts. Let's go into quantum physics. And you understand that we're living on this energetic grid that connects everything, everywhere, at all time, and at all distances. Distance is actually an illusion. Separation is an illusion, just like individuality is actually, believe it or not, an illusion. And so since it's an illusion, we're beginning to understand that this grid is what's connecting us, and information can pass through this grid at the speed of thought through quantum entanglement. We understand that if I have an atom or particle here, right? Let's see if it's an atom with a spin rate down, and another atom all the way across to the other end of the universe that is spin rate up. If I spin rate the one local to me up, the one on the other end of the universe will spin rate down, and vice versa, creating this spin rate up, spin rate down, instantaneous communication at an unlimited distance, bypassing the speed of light. What does it mean when we talk about quantum entanglement? It means that everything throughout the entire universe is intrinsically connected on this energetic grid, and there is no distance, because distance is actually an illusion. And so what we're talking about is when you're up in the sky and you're away from a lot of the mental chatter of all the billions of people thinking, which is a lot of noise, because every single thought that comes out of somebody's skull, it leaves as a beam of light. Right. Every thought that you think, it leaves out of the skull, out of the brain, and down here closer to the planet, there's thought flowing all around. There's thought forms everywhere, all right? As you go higher up into the sky, a lot of the chatter, that light chatter, it kind of calms down a little bit, as you're now able to be able to discern the existing frequencies that are down there too, but you just weren't able to discern them because there's just so much chatter. It's like walking into a nightclub, or and
what if there was an automated
is blasting, and it's like, man, somebody's standing right next to you, they're talking to you, and you literally cannot hear them, and you're trying to talk back to them, and you can't even hear your own voice.
Or right? Billy,
you get out of the club.
Or Billy, is it? I'm sorry to cut you off, my brother, but is it like, say, if you have a computer and you're in a public place and it's too many people using the Wi-Fi, you can't get a connection because there's too many people? Is that the same thing? Same thing.
Same thing. Same metaphor. Same exact thing. Okay. So all of a sudden you can tap in. Now, in the Akashic record is made up of every single thought that exists from everything in the entire universe throughout the matrix, and you can tap into that information. Typically, people think they have a lot of great ideas. A lot of the times, some of those ideas were not original ideas. They were downloaded and discerned ideas from the Akashic records itself, because they got on the right frequency to entangle with that information. And a lot of people can entangle with the same exact idea at the same time, but only a few people out of that group will actually discern it. And then only a few people out of that group will actually act on it. You see? So that's what's going on.
Amazing, Billy. Wow.
So some people will be like, well, if it's all this noise going on, why can't I hear it? Okay, so you got what's called a biological protection mechanism for psychic influence.
Hold on. What's that, Rod? Hold up, Rod. What is that? Slow down, Rod.
I'm about to tell you.
Oh, please.
Look, when I was in the joint, right?
Yes, sir.
That's when I found out how dark the human mind really can get.
Ooh, I know.
Looking in the eye of a serial killer, his thoughts seep into your head. If you psychic, right? And some of them people don't never need to see nothing that look like freedom, but then most of them, the 99 percentile, don't need to be there. They're there because of social conditioning. But in the mind, it converts everything into what we call white noise.
Okay.
It's there, It's just blocking out all of the sound that's preventing you from hearing what you are tuning into, right? It worked like this. Somebody talking to you, you looking at them, but you thinking about dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, you hear what I said? And then you're like, huh? White noise blocked them out because the attention focus shifted. It ain't that you didn't hear them consciously. It's just that the white noise seen that you was doing something else and said, hey, we can't listen to him while he's focused on this cheeseburger.
Yo, man, y'all saying some shit, man. God.
Right. You got all kind of spiritual defense mechanisms. A lot of them are just weak because you haven't learned that just like you can get your body in physical shape to go fight it like Mike Tyson, you can get your spiritual body in shape to do spiritual jujitsu, so to speak. Well, all of the negative shit coming your way, you miss me with that. That's off the mind saying miss me with it. It deflected. Because everything starts with a thought. If you can preempt the physical action with the thought form, then the thought form will get there faster and solve the problem before you ever have to take physical action. And this is why all of the some of the greatest people that in the last 2,000 years was pacifists. They was fighting the spiritual war using the power of the man.
Right.
They didn't want to fight the physical war because the agencies of the physical war, they didn't have the means to overcome that obstacle. Right? It's the depth of folly to rush into battle knowing you're going to get slaughtered. Right? But it's the highest wisdom to out-strategize your opponent where you never have to see him on the battlefield.
I hear this shit.
Oh, yeah.
And Big Mama is the wisest strategist.
Yes, sir.
Right? So she put us down here to observe, find these laws. They scattered all over the place. You got to find them. When you find them, they're going to tell you how to navigate. When you learn how to navigate, now you obligated each one teach one because you taught yourself enough to be able to teach others. Right? And then wisdom is justified in her children. Right? So when I talk to people, right, and I'm telling them something, Billy Carson coming, he's telling them the same thing.
Right.
I'm just telling them how we see it in the streets. Billy telling them how we see it in the classroom.
Yes, sir. That's amazing for the black race, the so-called black race. It's amazing to hear two different, the street and the classroom perspective. That is an amazing thing for them to see. So I'm glad to have both y'all. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad to have both. The
marked difference in the two is this. The classroom perspective is the perspective our enemy want us to see the problem. We're not going to never let us see the problem from a perspective that's going to allow us to solve it. Where in the streets, it's exactly how he told us not to look at the problem and everything he told us to stay away from, right? And all of the rules he created to make sure that if we tried to violate what he told us, he can punish us, right? So we have to be able to shift from street knowledge to book knowledge, because what they wanted us not to know, they still put it in the same books that we got to read to follow the instructions they given us. We just have to look at it from a street perspective and translate it from a culture, because the streets is actually the culture. The streets is the root culture of the land. So all of this, what they call the inner city, the hood, that's the culture that was already here. And then all of this other shit, the politics, the education, the entertainment was the stepping on of the culture, but the culture bubbled up through it and became more important than the structural control of us. Now, the ones of us who see it, whether we went through the classroom, Billy Carson, or whether we went through the penitentiary, Rod Hayes, we can come out and we can tell y'all what we see. And then when we in alignment, we can see further than any one of us could have seen separate.
Exactly.
That's what this is about, y'all. And before I get to my next question, for those of you came late, we got 4,000 people, about 4,000 people in the chat. Rod Hayes has officially sign up to the Blueprint for God Power 2. I'm gonna tell the story. I heard the brother Ryman on a show. I'm on the show. I'm being professional. I'm being a journalist, so I don't want to interrupt and be like, "Yo, Ron, that shit was fire." So I'm just like, I'm continuing with the questions, but it was fire what the brother Rod Hayes was spit. So me and Billy and Dr. B Serious, we like, yo, we gonna do this meditation album. It's gonna be, we're gonna have affirmations on it, and we want to change the frequency of music. So in my mind, I said, damn, I want to holler at Rod Hayes, man. There's something about his vibration. If he get on music, it's a wrap. So I'm like, this is perfect opportunity. I asked Rod. Rod said he down with it. So he's gonna be on like one of the part of the bonus content. He's not gonna be speaking, but we're doing a meditation album. It's gonna have affirmations on it. We're changing the frequency of music. Our music right now is in the hip hop is like crazy right now what they're doing, but it's getting better and we're changing the frequency. So Rod Hayes is going to be on one of my affirmation tracks. I got three. Billy got 3. Dr. B got 3. But Rod Hayes is going to be on one of them. He's going to be spit. He's going to be saying a poem, and it's going to be fire. So shout out to Rod Hayes. Thank you, my brother, for participating in this music album, this music project with us, changing the musical frequency of planet Earth. And I just advise everybody to sign up. The link is at the top of the chat to God Power Part 2. We offer a lot. We got the 7 sacred prayers. We got the meditation album. We got the workshop. It's going to be amazing. But I look forward to working with Rod, and I look forward to working with the brother in the future as well with music. You know what I'm saying? And with that being said, let's continue because we got 30 minutes left on this live. So I want to just keep it going. I want to keep it flowing. This is fire. This is already a top show of the year. I want to ask y'all this. So we got these avatars down here. Now, how could I say this? Okay, so let's use computer technology. I'm on the computer, right? Let's say, y'all, I'm a pervert, and let's say I'm on porn sites, and I get a warning. Your computer may get malware. Your computer, you visit them shit. Your computer, that shit will shut your whole computer. It's full of crazy shit. So I get these warnings, and I'm like, oh, damn, but I just can't resist it. I keep going. Next thing you know, my computer got malware. My computer got a virus. My computer's messed up because I was visiting these websites, or shall we say these frequencies. We got these avatars. Let me explain it like this. We got these avatars. We got these rovers. And we're visiting certain frequencies, we're projecting certain frequencies. So there's something called astral traveling. So when we astral travel, is that the same thing as visiting sometimes dangerous websites where we leave our body vulnerable to be hacked? Because I visit the porn site, some of these sites, and my computer could get hacked. Is that the same thing when it comes to astral traveling, where I could travel somewhere, my spirit leaves my body, but now I'm vulnerable? My password is vulnerable, and my whole being, my whole avatar could get hacked. Is that a good way to describe what can happen with average astral traveling, as I describe what happens sometimes with your computer?
Well, it's pretty interesting you brought that type of metaphor together, but when you astral travel, you're leaving the body, and the body is now empty of the light being that animates it, right? You've left. It's not like remote viewing. Remote viewing, you stay in the body,
okay,
right? You send the mind outside of space and time. Astral traveling, you literally are physically taking the light body, you're leaving and popping out of the physical avatar body, and which allows yourself to move throughout the entire multiverse. Really, Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets entering the gates of Arulu and walking through these stargates, even into other dimensions. He's traveled through an astral version of himself, has traveled through the universe, watching civilizations rise and fall. So now the body itself, his body was inside of a rejuvenation chamber about 100 feet below the ground, right? In the sands of Giza and other places. But an average person astral traveling now, their body is laying in, most likely in a bed or on a couch somewhere. Now, what's interesting about this is, let's look into science and what science has actually done. And anyone can Google this experiment. A scientist took 2 people, put them in 2 different rooms, They then put one person in front of a screen with a video game, right? And they had their blindfold on the person that could not see the video game, but he had the controller in his hand. They took another person, put him in another room, right? Completely separate, never saw or met this person ever. It was a controlled experiment, but they were able to make a mental mind link between the two. The other room, the guy was in there, he was looking at the screen, but did not have a joystick, the game controller, right? I call it joystick is back in the day, Atari 2600. But anyway, so the one without the controller, because of the mind link that they were able to create through science, the guy with the controller who couldn't see the screen was navigating and playing the game because the person with the mind and the vision without the controller was able to remote control his hands. This experiment was duplicated over and over and over again. So they know how to get one person's mind to interlink with another person's mind and remote control their body. Now, this is such a powerful experiment because all of a sudden you begin to see things like these elementary schools getting shot up, grocery stores getting shot up, malls getting shot up, these random bombings and this and that. And then you automatically start to think, well, maybe what if these people are being remote controlled? What if some of these, not all of them, but what if some of these people got hacked? Their bodies got hacked.
Wow.
It's possible that some of these people that have done these egregious acts, walking into churches and killing everybody randomly, it could be that these people were mind hacked. By who? You know, the 3-letter agencies, that's by who. But when you astral travel, it's also possible, in my opinion, just because of that experiment, when people are awake and conscious, they can get hacked. For sure, I believe that somebody can get hacked in an astral state. Their body, their physical body can be hacked in an astral state. But now what's interesting about hacking a body with no spirit light in it, how do you animate the body? You almost need to completely transfer your spirit consciousness into the empty body so that you can actually move it around and accomplish a mission. If you can get inside of it, I'm not too sure how much you can do with the body with no light in it, unless you become the light in the body. You become the ghost in the shell. It's pretty interesting though. But think about that. Could these people be mind hacked, the ones going around doing all these shootings? It's possible.
Wow.
It's funny you would say that because a lot of the similarities in like the school shootings, almost all of the children was under the treatment of a psychologist, and almost all of them was on Prozac and Ritalin. And the Manchurian candidates is what we call hacked humans, for lack of a better way of looking at it. They hacked humans. It was a hypnotist named Esther Brooks. If you go to my page on Instagram, the Sick Ape page, you will see it. But Esther Brooks was the one hypnotist who discovered that you can hypnotize somebody, implant a thought, have him deliver a top secret message, never knowing what the message was, based off something that the person you got to deliver the message says to him. Right. This is documented in part of the MK Ultra studies and whatnot. So we know that can be done. What they call demon possession is hacking of a psyche. Where is it being hacked from? We don't know. Sometimes the person will create an egregore to surrender the control to, and this is how you create an alter ego. Or alternate ego. The ego is the artificially created self that you believe is you. The alter ego is the artificial self that you create to deal with the parts of life that the regular self refused to deal with. And this is why a lot of like serial killers and whatnot, they classified as multiple personality disorder. He's normally a nice guy, but when he turned into that monster, you don't want to see him. Right, this is what they're talking about, and there's numerous records of people that didn't know any psychic self-defense that used astral travel and received a negative effect. But what a lot of us don't know is a lot of the shaman priests used to use astral travel in the conjure war we was in, they were attacking them. If they found out they was travelers, they'd kill them while they was traveling. They'd kill the physical vessel so they can't get back in the body. Right. So they use different means to do that. But because the most powerful ones was the dream walkers, which is actually a form of astral travel or lucid dreaming.
Powerful. You know what Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets? Well, the Emerald Tablets, it talks about the fact of transferring the ego into another body. And it says the ego of Thoth passed into the bodies of men in a later age, as described in the tablets. As a result, he incarnated 3 times, the last time being Hermes, the thrice born, or Hermes Trismegistus, right? And in this incarnation, he left the Emerald Tablets as a later and far less complete exposition of the ancient mysteries. So again, in ancient records, there is this ego being transferred. In other words, they're saying that in this particular method, he explains it more deeper in the Emerald Tablets, but he transferred his ego from one body to the next. And these bodies, fortunately, were not stolen bodies. They were bodies that he himself had created, most likely through some type of a cloning process. But he was able to transfer his ego from body to body. He said he would walk amongst men, but unlike a man. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Now, let me ask you about this. Now, we're talking about rovers. We're talking about this meat suit. And we're talking about frequencies. Now, one of the things that happens when we come and we incarnate into these meat suits or these rovers or the avatars or whatever, or the body, the human body, whatever you want to call it, is we take upon a frequency or a name. So what I want to ask you about is this a name that this meat suit takes upon that it seems pretty significant. And I'm wondering why this particular name, and that name is Michael. In our lifetime, when we hear about all these ancient gods, we hear about Tahuti. Both of y'all talk a lot about Tahuti and Lil, Enki, all these Anunnaki gods. I hear both of y'all talk. But now when we're talking about Michael and we're talking about ancient times and we're talking about modern times, in modern times, we hear about Michael in ancient times, but in modern times, the most feared man on the planet. And I'm with a brother that's from the street. I'm with a brother that totally understands this concept. The most feared man on the planet, Mike Tyson, lived in our lifetime. The most feared. I'm not saying the greatest boxer. The most feared man on the planet at one time was Mike Tyson. The greatest basketball player of our time, Michael Jordan. The greatest entertainer, singer, musician. And we all know what music is. We all know cymatics. We all know our biological, our human cells, what music and sound is. The greatest voice of music, Michael Jackson. So, oh my God, we got the warrior spirit. We got the entertainer spirit. The warrior spirit.
Athletic spirit.
Yeah, and that spirit. Yeah. Tell me about why would this frequency, what is the deal with this frequency called Michael that when it incarnates into this realm, this rover suit, that it just does great, amazing things?
Well, on that same note, when you mention those Michaels, right? Yeah. There's still millions of Michaels that ain't shit. You got to remember that part, though.
Talk to me.
But when you look at anything that's written with letters, every letter has a color, a numerical value, and a vibrational sound frequency. Right? When you got an ancient name, you got multiple great people imprinting this name, this same name, right? They're creating the power. Now, everybody who have the name won't know how to access the energy. You got to have both the blood and the right. You can't just have one.
And just have one. Okay. Talk to me, Rod.
Right. So if you from a certain bloodline and then they name you a certain name, the numerical value of each letter, the color code of the word, because all of them are a different color. And then when you mix colors, you come up with an original color when you mix different colors together. So it's going to create its own color. and then it's going to have a density to it that can be actualized like an app on a cell phone.
Right, right.
Right. So remember, all of this stuff is egregores, thought forms.
You keep talking about that.
Right. Because we keep doing this to ourselves, not knowing what we're doing.
Right. Okay.
So, like earlier, you heard Brother Carson say, don't say negative stuff to yourself about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you telling the egregore to be belligerent to the self.
Mm.
Right? So if you telling the egregore to be belligerent to the self, and don't fuck around and hit it with a prayer and say amen. Because now you told the whole higher God self to amen. Be hidden. I don't want to see you in this physical world. Right? Now, if you look at those Michaels, Mike Tyson didn't grow up in the church. Michael Jordan might have went to church, but he grew up on the basketball court. Michael Jackson might have grew up going to the Kingdom Hall, but he grew up as the entertainer. His focus was never on the dogma. It was on the compass that the energy drove him for greatness.
Right.
And when we look at these three, Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, and Michael Jackson, what's the common denominator besides the name? Dedication to the constant muscle memory training, whether it's the vocal muscles, the basketball muscles, or the boxing muscles. The dedication required is the activation of the warrior Michael angelic energy, as they call it. The only reason why it's even an angelic energy, because it's supposed to be Michelle, but since the patriarchs took over and masculized her.
Ooh, you took it there? It's supposed to be Michelle. Right, man.
But since the patriarchs took it there and masculized her, we men be able to use part of that frequency to a high degree. So it's just the same as putting an app on your phone. You're just putting it in your brain. Right? Now, just because the app on the phone don't mean that anybody on the phone know how to use the app.
Got you.
Right? But if you have a genetic memory of what to do when you get certain apps, you're gonna know. It's gonna be instinct at that point, which they call it instinct, but it's genetic memory. That's why the blood carries the genetic memory. The know-how gives you the right to activate it. That's why you got to have both the blood and the right. You can't just have one. That's why you got two brothers, both of them pretenders to the throne, but one of them not qualified because he wouldn't study. But the one who studied to show himself approved, he can prove that he's worthy and that he did the work by his effort. But the other brother just going to be huffing and puffing mad because he didn't want to do the work because it was hard at the time. But in the retrospect, in the aftermath, what looked like hard work wasn't shit. Right? So it's just an app. All of the names are apps to activate the ego consciousness. Right? It's the same as on the phone. You just got it in your Earth Rover.
Got you. Perfect way to explain.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he's typing in, and to add on to that a little bit, you look at the root name or the ancient name, Michael. If you look at the ancient version of it, My-Kal-El. Okay, My-Kal-El. It means my M-I-C-H or M-I-C or M-I-K-H is kind of how they spelled the M-I-K-H, but it's me, it's I, right? Cal is now you're getting into the part where it's light, K-A-L, and then L at the end, E-L is God. So you're saying I am God. That's what the name actually means in the ancient tongue. So it's a pretty powerful name, and it is an app. So, when we're born, we're given a name, a race, and a religion. And a lot of the times we defend a false identity. but sometimes the right frequency when it's heard over and over again, right? So you're speaking, the parent is speaking to that kid with that name, that frequency, that cymatic frequency over and over. And a powerful name like that, in some cases, depending on the person's epigenetics, it could take hold and it can install that app, and then it can actually open the app and run the software program inside that app. And that's what happens to some people with that name.
Wow. All right, family. I'm gonna ask one more question before we got here. Before I ask this question, once again, family, make sure you sign up for Blueprint for God Power 2. It's off the hook. I mean, I can't wait. I'm collaborating with Rod Hayes on one of the tracks for the album, the meditation album. We got so much going on, family. I'm gonna have to do a whole episode to explain it, but my point is, I'm just grateful to collaborate with Rod Hayes on one of the meditation tracks, and it's gonna be fire. That's part of the bonus content that we're offering, and it's gonna be absolutely fire. Last question before we get out of here, y'all, is I still got the screen on, Billy. Hold up. How do I do this? Okay, there we go. Well, let me do this now. All right, you had to fix the screen. Okay. Let me see. All right, let me ask y'all this. So obviously, since we're talking about a multi-dimensional nature, the topic of vibration and frequencies come into play. Now, what I want to ask y'all is, growing up, I always heard about a jealous God. This God is jealous. This God is jealous. You know, I went to Catholic school, so I heard about the jealous God a lot. Yeah. Then when I got older, I found out that God was a frequency. Now, what I want to ask y'all, I heard about the jealous God when I was 13, 14, 15. In my 20s, I heard about God was a frequency. What I want to ask you now is, are frequencies jealous? Because I ask you that because when you dedicate yourself to a frequency and you seem to want to give yourself another frequency attention, it seems as though that frequency gets jealous and attacks you when you try to leave that frequency and join another frequency. So if I want to spend time with my woman and I'm dedicated to music, now all of a sudden my music abilities disappear. And I'm like, oh shit. So I gotta sacrifice my whole family to be the greatest musician alive. And that's the most of the greats, they sacrifice everything to tap into that frequency. Kobe Bryant, he didn't have much of a family life. Michael Jordan, they sacrificed everything to tap into that frequency. So my question is these frequencies jealous? Whereas the point is you have to just dedicate your whole life to that one frequency in order to just experience it.
The first thing is the jealous God concept is where we got to start at, because first of all, jealousy is a frequency. Mm. But in the human animal, jealousy is a learned behavior, and it once was classified as a mental disease or defect by the psychological DSM manual. It used to be called dementia praecox, right? Which is a form of schizophrenia. And the jealous God is Enlil himself, right? So just take us back to that Anunnaki shit, because if you leave the Middle East and you study religions like Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, none of their guys is jealous until you get to the Middle East. This Hebrew Babylonian Yahweh God is the first God on record to openly leave a record saying that he was a jealous God. Jealousy is a learned behavior in humans. So who taught this God to be a jealous human? Right? Because if he was truly jealous, that means that he got a human attribute that he doesn't have the God quality capable of controlling. Right? So the ones who sacrifice like that, it goes to what we was talking about earlier with the white noise. It's not that they don't want to be good in the family they dedicated, because we know subconsciously at some level that the drive and the work to be great, it's either going to be a long run or a short run, meaning you're going to either do something great early in life or your life going to be stretched out, in whatever you do of recognition, you end up doing later in life. The ones who do it early in life have the worst family life until after they retire. Now they got the time and the resources because of the sacrifices they made in order to contribute to this better life after this dedication period. When you look at the priesthood got different levels that require you to perform different types of dedication. An extreme priesthood of the homosexual Roman cult requires you to give up women. That's total insanity to any man that's human, right? So when we looking at, is it a frequency? Yeah, but the frequency is an artificial construct, an egregore created, and then it's passed on like the common cold. It's a learned behavior. It's not natural to humans.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Billy, you want to close that out?
Yeah, I mean, he's right. And, you know, and Lil is the Yahweh of the Bible. That is the one that is giving all these crazy orders to have, you know, human beings go out and kill other human beings in another part of the world where they don't even know who the hell they are, just because he's jealous and angry that one person in the town isn't worshiping him. This is in the book of Deuteronomy, something they will not teach you in Bible study. If you read the book of Deuteronomy, all of a sudden you begin to see all these wars where he's sending out human beings, and alongside of those human beings are some of his angels, which are just people as well, because they have to put on clothes. They describe how they're putting on their clothes and their outfits, how they got to get their swords ready, and how they're going to battle. They're going to a place to see people that they've never met, to go in, and their orders are specifically to kill the women, kill the children, kill the men. And also, if you happen to see some virgins, don't kill them. You can keep the virgins and take them back with you. So now we have invasion, we got home invasion, we got murder, right? And we have abduction. And then he says, bring the spoils back to me. Now, what kind of creator of the universe needs human beings to go out and get him some spoils? So it's telling you right there, we're dealing with the attributes of a person, not the attributes of the creator of the universe. And I don't understand why Christian people can't see this clearly, because unless you can't read your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, maybe that's why you can't figure this out. But it's clear as day. It's spelled out clear as day that.
Are your kids in grades 6 to 11? Harvard has made SAT and ACT
attributes of the person that's claiming to be the creator of the universe. It's not. It's a person, and I do mean a person that puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like us, masquerading as a god. And how he got away with it is because he had what? More knowledge and some advanced technology. And so when a more advanced civilization and interacts or engages a less advanced civilization, the less advanced civilization is going to deify them and call them gods and pray to them and worship them and give them all their stuff and everything else. And that's exactly what happened in that biblical text.
Wow. Billy, you be getting on them Christians, man. I know they mad at you, man.
I don't think you wear pants.
You got to wake them up.
I don't think he wear pants. I think he wear a skirt. I think he's a cross-dresser.
You talking about Enlil?
Yeah, because all his priests walk around in dress.
It's
so
possible.
He got to wear a dress because they want to dress like him.
That's a good point, Rod.
Yeah.
He is the father of cross-dressing and drag queens and shit. That's his shit.
You call Enlil the father of cross. Goddamn, this show. Listen, this show. Rod said Enlil was the father of cross-dressing. Wow. Okay.
He created a homosexual pedophile cult. Why would you be shocked that he's the father of cross-dressers and drag queens?
Well, listen, Enlil in the Sumerian tablets, Enlil has sex with his own sister. So, come on. These people were sick people, man.
Jesus Christ, man. Wow. Listen, I got to be respectful of everybody's times. I know Billy got something to attend to, and And tonight's show was just non-stop fire. I mean, it just didn't stop. I don't know where it began. I don't know where it stopped. It just seemed like it was a forever thing type of thing. And I want to thank Rod and Billy. I mean, obviously, there's something about the chemistry between these two where it was something special tonight. And everybody, we have 4,000 people still here right now. I know everybody could agree. And I want to thank y'all too for joining me. I mean, this was magnificent. I took notes. I got my notebook. I'm always taking notes. And I want to thank y'all too for joining. Before we get out here, leave your contact info and let the people know what you got coming up. I know, Billy, we got the blueprint. Rod Hayes, let everybody know your Instagram before we get out of here, my brothers.
So on Instagram, y'all can find me on the Sick Ape. That's the page I broadcast lives from and put my posts on. And I wanted to. I don't got nothing scheduled. But I got a live tomorrow scheduled on the YouTube channel, but I don't remember which one yet. And I wanted to thank Brother Rich because I feel like Kobe Bryant got to play on the same team as Mike tonight.
Oh yeah, no facts, super facts. This is Kobe and Jordan tonight.
I appreciate it, brother. I feel the same way, man. We're on the same frequency. You know, we got the Blueprint for God Power Part 2. You know, we got the shirts on. The Blueprint for God Power Part 2 coming up. Dr. B Serious, Billy Carson. And shout out again to Richard Merritt, Black Magic 363 for helping to put this on and come up with even the concept and the idea. It's going to be an amazing workshop. It's going to be mind-bending knowledge and information for 12 hours. And I'm looking forward to giving out all the extras, like the 3 songs that I've created for this are just powerful, powerful affirmation songs. I'm all done with my music. My music is done. This music is not going to go into global distribution. It is going exclusively to the people who bought tickets for the Blueprint for God Power. So you'll never hear it on Spotify. You'll never hear it on Apple Music. You'll never hear it on any other, platform, YouTube or whatever. It's only going to go to the people that actually have the tickets. All my songs are in 432 hertz. I know Dr. B's doing the sound bath. I know Richard got his thing going on. Now he's got a collaboration with Rod Hayes. It's going to be an amazing album specifically for the God Power 2 to get you and keep you in the right frequency. So I'm looking forward to it.
This was a great year, family. Not just this show, but just in general. In terms of, we got a victory this year in terms of spirituality. It was a huge victory for the souls that are looking to ascend, for the souls that are looking to tap in. This was a huge victory and a huge year for us. So many things happened internally in different ways to different people. We went through our ups and downs, and I can definitely say that we understand it now that we're in the month of October and we're all better people as a result of it. I ask that you all tap into your God power and understand your God power. This show, understanding this concept that Rod talked about, started out with this rover. You understanding the remote control capabilities of a rover and understanding the remote control capabilities of your Earth Rover, your Earth body rover, shall help you navigate better, shall help you connect with that Wi-Fi, that multi-dimensional Wi-Fi that Billy talked about. And it was just an amazing show. Like I said, I'm thankful to collaborate with Rod Hayes. Music is everything to me at this point. And Rod Hayes is collaborating with us on the Blueprint for God Power 2 in a music sense. He won't be speaking, but musically he will be present. He will be participating in one of my meditation tracks. And I'm thankful for that. I heard the brother Ron before, and I definitely want to collaborate with him more down the line. And we're going to make it a music affirmation track, amazing affirmation track for the Blueprint for God Power 2. Everybody who signs up will get that. The link is at the top of the chat. Besides that, thank you everybody for watching tonight, subscribing to the channel. Just so many notes, man. This shit is amazing. It's amazing remembering yourself. Rod Hayes talked about how we got hit with that amnesia. I guess because we live forever, we got to do this shit for entertainment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What do an eternal being do for eternity?
Tell me.
Well, you got to keep coming up with new ways and innovative ways to experience different stuff, or you can get bored.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we living through the chapter of misery.
Mm.
In the whole like body, you don't have no emotions. You just pure data.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But when you come into the body, you get this navigation system and fall in love with it because you ain't never experienced nothing like this before.
Mm.
They're like the first time a pilot see the cockpit and all of those buttons, he get excited, like, whoa, I'm gonna learn how to control all that. Right? So a lot of us, especially the pauper guys, them the ones who see through the game and refuse to participate, we call them bums. Winos. But when you go ask them something, they drop the heaviest knowledge on you, and you be like, man, you believe what that drunk dude just told me?
Yeah. That's facts.
Right? Them the pauper guys. Those the ones who take the suffering that regular people can't take to balance out the frequencies so that we can have different levels in the game. And the only ones going to stay at the bottom is the ones that's strong enough to take it, because oppression is atmospheric. You're going to rise to the level you're willing to accept. When you refuse to accept poverty, you're going to rise up at least to the middle class. And you're going to keep rising until you get to what we call the comfort zone. When you get to the comfort zone, you ain't going nowhere because you're comfortable there.
Man,
right? So that's why the richest people is the greediest, most selfishest motherfuckers. Not because they started out that way, but because they are so uncomfortable being anywhere near the bottom that they go into this frenzy of, I got to get to the top. I got to get it. You hear us in the hood. I got to get to the bag. I got to get to the bag. They don't even know the bag got a big ass hole in it. Right at the bottom. So now they done snatched the bag, took off, hit the alley, went to go split up the shit, stuck their hand in there, and it came out the bottom with nothing in it. Because it's all fiat. Somebody said it had value, but it didn't have none until somebody said it. Creature from Jekyll Island.
Hey, listen. Oh man, I could go on and on and on. I'm gonna end it because I could keep going, and I got 20 more questions I can ask you. But y'all be like, yo, Rich, that question is I can ask 20 more questions. But listen,
we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back. But listen, Billy Carson, Rod Hayes, my brothers, thank you so much, family. This is Black Magic. Thank you for tuning in, all 4,000 of y'all. We